Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. We're here at day 2 of Sweetwater's GearFest, and we thought we'd give you a little treat. What we're going to do is go inside the conference hall, where I'm going to be conducting a seminar with Jacquire King. Jacquire is an engineer-producer who worked with Norah Jones on her last record, working now with the Cold War Kids, also worked with Kings of Leon. He's going to have a lot of great things to say about how he's using the Universal Audio UAD2 card. Let's go inside and check it out.
I'm Mitch Gallagher. I'm the editorial director here at Sweetwater, and I have the privilege and the honor today of sharing the stage with Jacquire King.
Thank you, Mitch.
Jacquire is a multiple Grammy winner. He's worked with artists including Switchfoot, Tom Waits, Kings of Leon, and Norah Jones. And today we're going to talk about how he works in his studio on some of these sessions, how he uses the Universal Audio UAD2 card and the UAD2 plugins, and we're all going to learn a lot, so we're looking forward to it.
I hope so.
Absolutely. So we're going to play some music a little bit later and look at some tracks. Let's begin by talking a little bit about how you got started. How did you get into being an engineer and a producer?
Just fascination with my parents' hi-fi system when I was little, and we had a piano and just playing records, and I got a cassette recorder when I was really young, and just started recording things and played in bands in high school, and eventually when I got to be about 18, 19 years old, I figured out that there wasn't really much else I was interested in, and so I went to the recording workshop, and got some formal training and talked my way into a studio job as an assistant. And I grew up in Virginia, born in Washington D.C., so I got a job in a studio in Maryland called Balance Sound, and it was an all analog studio, MCI, desk, and tape machine, and I just kind of started there and just been working very hard at it since.
Right, right. Now after that, was that when you went to San Francisco?
Yeah, after being at Balance Sound for a little over a year, although, at the time I didn't really realize how good the music community was in Washington, D.C., because there was a lot of interesting things going on back in the late 80s there. From go-go music and hardcore, and there was a lot of good local music and jazz stuff. I got to actually do a lot of nice sessions, but I sort of felt like I needed to go elsewhere, and I thought about all the different places where the music business was, and I went to L.A. and didn't like L.A., and a friend told me that I should go to Northern California and check that out, and I did get a job there and felt like it was a good city, so I moved to San Francisco in 1988 to work at Different Fur, which was an SSL room, and I was there for a very short period of time. I got fired.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was very long sessions, and something got erased, and late one night, and to please the client, I was relieved of my duties, and I went on to do a lot of live sound after that, because there was a lot of good live music going on in San Francisco, a lot of good clubs at that time, and so I spent a lot of time doing some live music in clubs as well, which was really good training. Making records was what I wanted to do, and live sound is all the same tools, but it's an entirely different craft, and so it's a lot of good training, because my preferences have always been towards ensembles, live music, people playing music. Those are the kind of records I wanted to make. So being able to do live sound as much as I did and for as long as I did was also really helpful.
Right. And then you were at Coast Recorders, correct?
I did. I interned for Dan Alexander at Coast Recorders, and then when Dan moved his facility from Mission Street, which was right across, it's still a studio. Dan moved his studio downtown, and then some friends and I reopened the studio as Toast, and it was I'm here talking on behalf of Universal Audio, but it was a Bill Putnam room that was built in, I believe, in 1964, and it was to sort of capture the West Coast jazz sound, and that's kind of where it got its name. And when we got the facility from Dan, the Neve console, the 40-channel 8028, was purchased with the building. So we had a really great, vintage console and a really nice traditional room built by one of the best. And so I was there, for almost 10 years.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, the connection from Bill Putnam, who designed so many of the great products that Universal Audio does now.
Absolutely.
In the studio. Now, after that, you, I understand by way of Los Angeles, went to Nashville, and that's where you're currently located. Is that correct? Yes. Yeah, and you have a studio there. Is it in your home? Is it a commercial?
I have a personal studio in my basement. Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
It's you know, it's about 1,000 square feet. It's there is some recording space where I can do some overdubs, but it's primarily like a mix room. And I have like a very large machine storage room because I keep all the computers and all that kind of stuff out of the control room and kind of try to keep the ambient noise as quiet as possible, so that I don't have to mix loud, and because I find that's much better. You know, I have a Quad 8 console that I've had for maybe 10 or so years. I recently turned that into a couple sidecars, so it's a much smaller footprint than it used to be. Lots of outboard gear. You know, I have the things that I have that are Universal Audio are the 2192, which is a really, really great converter. I love using that. I have an ATR 102 quarter-inch machine, and I love using that piece with the ATR. And I mix in a hybrid kind of setup. I use Pro Tools, and I stem everything out. And I use you know, I use the UAD for a lot of effects processing stuff that I've in the past, like, you know, the 140 emulation. Also the 250 is really good. That's also a really good piece. It's not a piece that I own, but every time I go to a facility and I'm working, you know, I'm always really pleased when they've had one. So, you know, because it's like when I'm doing vocals or whatever, you know, whatever that I feel it's appropriate sound for, you know, my habit has always been to take a sound like a vocal or a guitar or what have you, because I also love the old Time Cubes, which is a really great UAD emulation for that. I'll record the piece of hardware into my session while I'm at the studio, so that I can keep it as long as something doesn't change about the performance. I can keep it till I mix. So having these plugins now, where I have that available and I can kind of carry them along with me at the beginning to the end of the process is really helpful. Right. You know, the mixing scenario is also, you know, I do all the automation in the computer, but use lots of analog inserts and a lot of stuff like that, and do external summing. Right, right.
Now you mentioned that you stem things out during the mix. Can you tell us more about how that works in the flow of the session, or what that means?
Well, you know, I just combine. I kind of group things like bass. Bass comes out a pair of outputs. I actually, in the last 5 or so years, I've started treating the bass with a lot of effects. I've started to really enjoy that. I try to make my productions pretty low track counts, I guess. Or I don't like to use a lot of more musical parts than really necessary for the song. So the bass has got a couple outputs, drums. I use parallel bus compression on the drums, so that usually comes out to either a stereo pair or 2 stereo pairs, and you're just kind of on down the line. Guitars, that's sort of the groups of instruments. They come out of stereo pairs, and I have 16 outputs that are available. Okay. That's the way I do it.
So these separate groups of sounds are coming out and then going into a summing mixer, so you're combining them in the analog domain outside.
Yes.
Right? But they're being processed by plugins and also by external analog gear?
Yeah, predominantly plugins. I think I would say I've used anywhere from 10 to 12 analog inserts on individual tracks. Yeah.
Right.
But, like, but I'll subgroup, like the drums are subgrouped. I'll use a couple analog inserts for a compressor of choice for a drum bus, but then, just sort of go down the line like that.
Right. I hope you've enjoyed this look inside one of the seminars here at GearFest. I'm Mitch Gallagher. Thanks for joining us for the Sweetwater Minute.